Olá, meus amigos, bem-vindos à programação Língua Portuguesa no canal 49. É com muito gosto que estamos na vossa companhia. E hoje vamos, mais uma vez, dentro de aproximadamente 5 minutos, estar na cidade de Washington, D.C., que, como todos nós sabemos, é a capital dos Estados Unidos da América e onde ocorreu, no último mês de junho deste ano de 2018, a convenção inaugural da Portuguese-American Leadership Council of the United States, ou seja, a PALCUS, que é uma organização nacional ao serviço da nossa comunidade portuguesa em todos os estados da União Americana. É com muito gosto que o programa Os Portugueses no Vale, que se dedica à presença portuguesa não só no Vale de São Joaquim, não só nos Estados Unidos da América, mas, portanto, a presença portuguesa também aqui na Califórnia, obviamente, e esta presença é, de facto, uma presença nacional. Mas é com muito gosto que vamos apresentar aqui 4 programas. Já apresentamos o primeiro há 15 dias, este é o segundo e teremos ainda mais 2 programas para vos apresentar com imagens e ecos deste acontecimento que envolveu mais de 200 de líderes comunitários de várias partes dos Estados Unidos da América, onde se refletiu e onde se falou e onde se debateu e também onde se teve algumas ações para o futuro sobre a nossa presença portuguesa no mundo norte-americano. É muito importante que a nossa comunidade continue com as suas organizações. E é muito importante que, para além de termos organizações a nível do nosso bairro, a nível da nossa vizinhança, a nível da nossa cidade, da nossa região, do nosso condado, do nosso estado, é também muito importante que tenhamos uma organização nacional. A PALCUS é essa organização, como aqui expliquei há 15 dias atrás, está aberta a qualquer pessoa ou qualquer organização, portanto, não só às organizações, mas também às pessoas individuais, podem ser membros da PALCUS. Como fazer? Vão diretamente à internet, palcus.org, ou seja, palcus.org, e aí podem se tornar membros desta organização e apoiar uma iniciativa que vai além da nossa cidade e além da nossa região e além do nosso estado, mas que é importante. E é importante também haver vozes locais. Portanto, para a nossa comunidade local, por exemplo, neste caso, para o Vale de São Joaquim, é importante que a PALCUS tenha membros do Vale de São Joaquim, para que também, junto das entidades americanas e junto das entidades portuguesas, a PALCUS possa ser voz também dos portugueses que vivem no Vale de São Joaquim, também dos portugueses que vivem no estado da Califórnia. E para que tenhamos voz, obviamente, dentro da PALCUS, é importante que haja membros do Vale de São Joaquim, membros da cidade de Fresno, de Visalia, de Hanford, de Tulares, de Kingsburg, etc., e também do norte e do sul deste vastíssimo estado. Foi um acontecimento muito importante porque reuniu pessoas, como eu disse, de vários estados da União Americana e porque houve várias reflexões, como testemunharam, dizia eu, há 15 dias atrás, no primeiro programa que dedicamos, e como vão testemunhar no programa de hoje, que será dedicado, portanto, mais uma vez, o segundo de 4 programas que dedicamos a esta organização e a esta convenção anual, portanto, inaugural. Foi a primeira vez que se fez uma convenção com 250 pessoas representando centenas de organizações que nós temos nos Estados Unidos da América e é importante que tenhamos essa presença, particularmente no lugar onde se tomam decisões que muitas vezes nos afetam, ou seja, afetam-nos quase todos os dias, as decisões que são tomadas na capital dos Estados Unidos da América. Este acontecimento foi graças à Fundação Luso-Americana para o Desenvolvimento. Nunca é demais enaltecer o trabalho da FLAD junto das nossas comunidades portuguesas. Há muitos acontecimentos, muitas reflexões, muitos centros de estudo, muitas organizações culturais, muitos intercâmbios, toneladas de intercâmbios. Tudo isto tem acontecido graças ao apoio da Fundação Luso-Americana para o Desenvolvimento. A FLAD tem tido um trabalho fundamental em muitos aspectos da nossa comunidade e aqui localmente o trabalho e a dedicação e o empenho e também, portanto, o investimento que a FLAD tem feito na nossa comunidade local, particularmente nesta nova etapa de uma coordenação e de um intercâmbio entre a Universidade Estadual da Califórnia em Fresno State, e a Universidade dos Açores, o campus da Ilha Terceira, e também criação de cursos de língua e cultura portuguesas no Fresno State com o apoio da FLAD. A FLAD tem tido um papel predominante e teve um papel predominante culminante também, portanto, nesta convenção. Não teria sido a mesma convenção, aliás, acho que nem teria sido convenção sem o apoio da Fundação Luso-Americana para o Desenvolvimento, a FLAD, e também do Governo de Portugal. Vamos então ficar com este acontecimento que aconteceu em junho deste ano de 2018, como uma forma, portanto, de também trazer junto da nossa comunidade local o trabalho que a PALCUS faz a nível nacional, a nível de país, a nível dos Estados Unidos da América, e mais uma vez o nosso apelo para serem membros da PALCUS, aqueles que o queiram fazer, através de palcus.org, palcus.org, e os meus parabéns para a Presidente da Direção da PALCUS, a Ângela Costa Simões, que tem tido um papel muito importante na renovação, digamos assim, desta organização e no trabalho que ela faz a nível nacional. O Canal 49 e o programa Os Portugueses no Vale vai até Washington, D.C. em inglês, mas é sobre a nossa comunidade portuguesa.
Good morning, everyone. I should also add, when we talk about geography, I totally concur with our two congressmen that the Azores constitutes the capital of Portugal. But unfortunately, they omitted to name the island which stands out in that regard, which is the island from which my grandparents came, which was San Miguel. All right, now that I've got the crowd on my side, let me start by saying how much I appreciate the opportunity to join my esteemed colleagues in discussing this morning's topic. My fellow panelists are from the legislative and executive branches of government, and I will be sharing my reflections as they relate to the judicial branch. As we all know, the legislative branch makes the laws and the executive branch executes the laws. But it is the judicial branch that interprets them and determines how they are to be applied. As a result, our state and federal appellate courts deal with important matters involving both our lives and our liberties, and the selection of judges who are charged with that responsibility has a significant impact on how justice is rendered. Our trial courts, in turn, apply the laws enacted by the legislative branch and interpreted by our appellate courts. In doing so, trial judges must also contend with the effects of challenging social conditions in the cases that come before them, such as increasing levels of violence and the deepening drug crisis. It goes without saying that the selection of judges who pass judgment in such matters is of great significance to us all. Given the importance of the judicial role, it is appropriate for us to consider the extent to which Portuguese Americans are represented on the bench. Time does not permit me, however, to outline the different ways in which judges are selected across the country. They range from lifetime appointments made by the president or a state's governor to service for a term of years, either by gubernatorial appointment or, in some cases, by election. That said, to what extent is the Portuguese-American community represented in the ranks of the judiciary? Permit me to answer that question with respect to my own state of Massachusetts, which has a combined total of 410 appellate and trial court judges. And how many Portuguese-American judges are there currently in our state? The answer is as simple as it is sad. One. A recently appointed juvenile court judge. I don't suppose that much more needs to be said that Portuguese Americans are underrepresented in the Massachusetts judiciary, especially considering the size of our ethnic community statewide. Looking at it from another perspective, were Portuguese Americans represented in our judiciary in the same proportion that they are represented in our state Senate and House of Representatives, Massachusetts would have between 13 and 31 Portuguese-American judges, not just one. This is significant because to discuss the integration of Portuguese-Americans in the judiciary in any meaningful way first requires that there be an adequate representation of our ethnic community on the bench. That is clearly not the case in Massachusetts. Although my information is largely anecdotal, I fear that our experience in Massachusetts is not atypical and that Portuguese-American communities are underrepresented in the judiciary nationwide, even in those areas where we constitute a significant portion of the population. Without doubt, those Portuguese-Americans currently serving as judges do so with distinction, such as Justice Maria Araujo Khan, who was appointed to the Connecticut Supreme Court last year. The point I'm making here is that we need more such examples of Portuguese-American legal talent on the bench throughout the United States. Now for the more challenging questions. First, why are Portuguese Americans underrepresented on the bench, even in areas where we have a significant presence? And second, how can we as a community, especially those of us pursuing careers in the law, promote a greater representation of Portuguese Americans in the judiciary? Let me turn to the first question, being why we have relatively few Portuguese Americans on the bench. As a starting point, we must remember that the universe of people who can serve as a judge is limited in a way that participation in the executive and legislative branches of government is not. Using Massachusetts as an example, a potential applicant for a judgeship must satisfy certain basic professional requirements, such as having a Juris Doctorate degree, being a member of the bar in good standing, and having at least 10 to 15 years of legal experience. Moreover, a serious judicial candidate must exceed those minimum requirements, distinguishing himself or herself through significant professional accomplishment in the legal field or some form of noteworthy public or community service. This necessarily limits the pool of potential applicants because developing such a professional resume takes considerable time and effort. Having said that, my sense is that the number of Portuguese Americans attending law school is growing, expanding the number of our ethnic colleagues pursuing a legal career. This is significant, of course, because without Portuguese American lawyers, we can't expect to have Portuguese American judges. When I became a member of the bar 42 years ago, Portuguese names were few and far between among those practicing law in my area. Over time, the situation has improved markedly, with a discernible increase in the number of Portuguese American lawyers. This, in turn, provides a larger talent pool from which future judges may be drawn, which represents a significant step in the right direction. The fact that a lawyer has a distinguished legal career, however, does not mean that he or she will become a judge. If an attorney wishes to serve on the bench, that person must put his or her name forward to be considered for judicial office. You do not get a surprise phone call in the middle of the night telling you that you are going to become a judge, no matter what you may think. Applications for judgeships are kept confidential, so it is hard to estimate the number of Portuguese American lawyers who have applied for judgeships in Massachusetts. Based on the available information, however, I believe the number of Portuguese American judges in our state has been restricted, at least in part, by the limited number of qualified candidates willing to put their names forward. There may be several reasons for this, including the obvious fact that once a lawyer is appointed to the bench, he must give up his or her law practice and all the opportunities and financial rewards that it may involve. I recall one instance where I was speaking to a very successful Portuguese American lawyer and trying to encourage him to apply for a judgeship. And he looked at me and he said, "Judge, I would love to serve on the bench, but not yet." Perhaps greater emphasis should be given to the public service aspect of a career in the judiciary, especially among Portuguese American lawyers who are otherwise active in civic activities. Serving as a judge will never be as financially rewarding as a successful law practice, but a career in the judiciary has its own rewards that, in my mind, far outweigh any such financial limitations. Indeed, there are very few professions in which one can touch as many lives as does a judge, who can bring justice and sometimes mercy to those who otherwise would never experience either of those things. Another factor is whether Portuguese American lawyers, especially those interested in judicial careers, have done the same kind of groundwork that lawyers from other groups perform, including participation in professional activities that support the practice of law and promote the legal profession, such as state bar associations and judicial nominating committees. These organizations and others like them constitute both the formal and informal networks that can influence the appointment of judges. Failure to participate in such activities amounts to a lost opportunity to engage in, if not influence, the judicial selection process. It is also significant with respect to the selection of judges that across the country there exist numerous specialized bar associations representing groups based on ethnicity, race, and other factors. Indeed, Massachusetts is typical in this regard, having bar associations organized by lawyers from the African American, Asian, Hispanic, Italian, and Greek communities, among others. In the past, there was an unsuccessful attempt at a Portuguese-American bar association, suggesting that, to date, Portuguese-American lawyers in my state have not done the same kind of groundwork necessary to advance their interests that we see lawyers from other ethnic groups perform. This leads to the second question that I raised. How can we as a community, especially those of us pursuing careers in law, promote a greater representation of Portuguese Americans in the judiciary? Answering for myself, I am strongly of the view that the time has come for the formation of a national Portuguese American Bar Association. The establishment of such an association with statewide chapters, where appropriate, would provide a tremendous boost to the influence of Portuguese Americans in matters involving the law, the legal profession, and the judiciary. Although an effort to form such an association on the state level was not successful in Massachusetts, my understanding is that better results have been achieved in Connecticut, which currently has an active Portuguese American Bar Association, and there may be others around the country of which I'm unaware. The role of such an organization at the national level, however, would be a comprehensive one, providing professional support and encouragement for its members, as well as advocating for the Portuguese American community nationwide in matters of significance to it, including, but not limited to, the appointment of judges. Before closing, I would like to address one further question with respect to the number of Portuguese Americans serving in the judiciary. What difference does it make? What difference does it make that we don't have more Portuguese American judges on the bench? Let me answer plainly. It makes a big difference, but not merely for reasons of ethnic pride. The profile of our ethnic group is no doubt enhanced by the accomplishments of its members. Service in the judiciary is a significant achievement, and every member of our ethnic community stands a little taller when one of our number becomes a judge. I would like to suggest, however, that there is another equally significant reason to hope that more Portuguese Americans will be called to judicial service. To do justice and to be perceived by the public as doing justice, our courts and the judges on them should reflect the communities they serve. This is part of the bedrock upon which public confidence in our judicial system rests. The public has the right to expect that judges will bring to the bench not only their education and training, but also their whole being, meaning who they are and their entire experience in life. Judges are the face of the community in the courthouse, and while we want judges who are legally skilled, we also want men and women on the bench whose judgment will be informed by a first-hand familiarity with the public they serve. This is particularly true with respect to our trial courts, and there is no question in my mind that it makes a big difference in Portuguese American communities to know that the judge in the courtroom is named Aguiar, Silva, and perhaps even Raposa. That is not to say, however, that cases should be decided based on ethnic favoritism. Far from it. Rather, it underscores the fact that the judiciary upon which we all rely must understand the community of which it is a part. At the end of the day, however, the importance of doing justice and treating people fairly is not just a Portuguese American issue. It is an issue that affects all ethnic and racial groups in this nation. In a society as diverse as ours, there should be ample room for everyone at the table, and when we speak of the judiciary, ample room at the judge's bench as well. In seeking to achieve this goal as Portuguese Americans, we cannot expect others to do the job for us. We will no doubt require the cooperation and assistance of others, but the initiative must come from us. And I sincerely hope that with this inaugural conference, we will take the first step. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. I feel the need to tell you that I'm from Lisboa and that I'm proud to be an Oficina. I know, we're very top Açoriano heavy here today, right? So I am in awe of the presence that I am in. I want to thank all the elected officials that are here and the PALCUS board for bestowing this honor on me, especially Annabella Mello Cruz, my municipal prosecutor, and Elizabeth, who said, you have to do this. And I said, oh my goodness, I don't know. I always tell everyone I am bottom of the fishbowl politician because I am just that little, I'm the pebbles on the bottom of the fishbowl that work to get things done. I have spent most of my life getting people elected. That's what I do, and that's what I do well. I'm proud to say that I have helped many Portuguese people get elected, and one of the reasons is because I'm grassroots. I do what I do because of my Portugal Day Committee, my Lions Club, my Portuguese Club, and my soccer club for the kids. I live in a city that's 12 square miles of population, 140,000 people, and only a quarter of them go to the Elizabeth Public Schools. So in 2014, I was asked to run for the Elizabeth Board of Education. I said, you know what? I've hit a wall. I help people get elected, and it's time for me to do more for my organizations. We had, at the time, a Portuguese councilman, Manny Grova, and Manny said, you know what? We need more. And I said, all right, let's do this. I have no problem. I have nothing to lose. My stars are aligning. I have a pension in government already, so hey, let's go. So I did, and I became the first Portuguese woman to ever be elected in Elizabeth, New Jersey. And I said, there's something wrong with this. There's definitely something wrong when the mayor of your city tells you and stands in your Portuguese club and stands in your Portuguese church and says, you Portuguese people are the hardest working people that I have ever met. You are the root of our city. You are the builders. You are the business owners. You are the pride. And yet we have no representation. So there's something wrong. So, you know what? Me being the mom, the wife, the sister, and, that little Oficina from Lisboa, I said, we've got to make a change. So we did. I was elected. In my first year, I learned a lot about what wasn't being done for our children. A lot wasn't being done. And I'm a believer that if you raise your children right, and if you raise them right, they don't forget where they come from, and they come back, and they build your communities. Well, we're doing that. We in Elizabeth teach Portuguese starting in the 6th grade. You have the right to take Portuguese and learn how to speak Portuguese and visit our schools and visit our churches and be involved in our community and be a part of it. Our Portugal Day Parade, if you've ever watched it or had the pleasure of coming to it, has more people of other nationalities who come to support us than it has Portuguese people. And that fills my heart because people respect who we are and they want to know who we are and they want to be a part of us. But what does that do? That also makes the elected officials who are there say, wait a minute, they're all trying to take over. Well, let me tell you a little bit about what we do at the Board of Ed. My first year, we learned. I sat back and I watched. I realized that we do not have enough representation there. The second year, every year there's an election, we put another Portuguese young lady on the board, Stephanie Gonçalves. She was elected, highest vote counter of that term. The third year, I said, we still don't have enough. And you know what? They say that Portuguese people, what do they bring to the table? They bring hard work, dedication, and money. Unfortunately, the teams are Hispanic, African American, and Portuguese. So we have a seat. But what is our job? We have to fundraise and we have to work hard. And we don't have a problem with it, so we do. So at the Elizabeth Board of Education today, if you haven't noticed, I'm your glass half full person. We have 3 elected Portuguese women. We have an assistant superintendent. We have many, many Portuguese teachers. I'm proud to say that our transportation director is Portuguese, that our special needs director is Portuguese, and that also that our bilingual director is Portuguese. So we are making a dent there. If you're telling me that we're not chipping away, we are. But we need more help. We need more support. We need people who are sitting in this room to say, don't get stuck in a rut. Don't stay at that level. We don't have representation outside of our bubble. And that's why I think you have all of these elected officials, and then you have someone like me saying, help me, help others, help us get more, help me help those. I think we have 27 in the top 50 students graduating next week from Elizabeth that are in the top 50. They're Portuguese. They're ours. You know, help us empower these students so that they could come back and make a difference in this world. We did make history this year. The chairman of our freeholder board, who was one of my youth group kids, and I know Doc's here and one of her kids, is Sergio Granados. And this year, he is the chairman of the freeholder board. Our president of city council is also Portuguese, Councilman Manny Grova, who is the president of city council in Elizabeth.
E assim, meus amigos, estivemos com a PALCUS e a Convenção Nacional que aconteceu na capital dos Estados da América no último mês de junho deste ano em curso de 2018. Foi com muito gosto que vos trouxemos estas imagens. Este é o segundo de 4 programas que dedicamos à Organização Nacional Portuguese-American Leadership Council of the United States, ou seja, a PALCUS, com sede junto da capital dos Estados Unidos da América. E mais uma vez, o nosso apelo para que apoiem as nossas organizações, apoiem a sua organização local, apoiem, portanto, os nossos clubes, as nossas associações, as nossas irmandades, mas também apoiem uma organização que está a ter um trabalho diferente a nível dos Estados Unidos da América e a defender os interesses da comunidade portuguesa e luso-descendente e também os intercâmbios e este relacionamento bilateral entre os Estados Unidos da América e Portugal. Foi com muito gosto que estive na vossa companhia. O programa Os Portugueses no Vale para si. Um abraço. Até sempre.